All right, so I'm going to be walking through the Wheel of Fortune project. And first I'm going to show you a few new things involving lists in Python. There's also a Python GUI apps with Tkinter playlist here, a few videos I want you to watch from this eventually. We talk a little bit about lists, a binary search, and then we talk about the actual project where we're creating a Wheel of Fortune game. Okay, it's not going to be your typical Wheel of Fortune game. It's going to be a little bit different, and I explain a little bit about it down here, what the requirements are. But we're going to go ahead and get started from the beginning. I'm going to go ahead and copy all of these topics, and I'm going to open up REPL. And in here, I'm going to create a new REPL, and I'll just say example, and I'll put today's date. Today is the 16th of December, and it's 11:17 in the morning. Okay, and it takes a second to load, and then this comes up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to paste the topics of what I want to talk about today in here, and then I will go through and I will comment them out. So the first thing I want to talk about is how to create a list. In previous projects, we've created lists and used lists, but I'm going to review how to actually create a list. From there, we're going to talk about how to access a list item by something called its index. From there, we're going to talk about how to access multiple items in a list using indexes. Okay, and then after that, we'll be going through how to assign an item in a list to a variable. I'll be showing you guys how to change an item of a list by its index. Once again, we'll talk about indexes today. And then we'll talk about the insert method, which is entirely different from the append method. It's important to know the difference, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the remove method, which removes an item from a list. We've talked about the length function before, but we're going to talk specifically how the length function works with lists. We'll talk about traversing a list, which means looping through a list and taking items from that list. And then we'll go through a few different functions. I want to talk about the max, the min, and the sum functions. I'll do mathematical operations. And then there's this method called the dot mean method. And mean is just another word for average. And that's going to find the average. And we have to import it from the statistics module. I know it might seem like a long list, but some of these don't really take much time to explain. Okay, the 13th thing is being able to how to index a string. Okay, not a list, but how to index a string, which is going to be important for our project. And the last thing is how to slice a string and replace a certain letter in the string by its index. And that might make your brain just go in all different directions just thinking about it. But once we get here, it won't be that bad. And you'll understand this will be used in the Wheel of Fortune project to replace any blanks on the board with the correct letter guessed. Okay, so these are the things I want to talk about today. I'm going to go ahead and get started. And the first thing on my list is how to create a list. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and create a list. Let's say I create a list called colors, right? And it's just a list of colors. And inside this list, let's say I add blue. Notice I'm adding commas between and then quotation marks. Yellow. All of this is inside square brackets. Pink. Maybe I'll say red. And I'll say like black. And I'll add one more item. I'll leave it there. Okay, so I have a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different items. So there are 5 items that are living or exist in my list. And the way you would create a list is by typing out the name of the list of what you want to store these items in. And then you create these square brackets. Inside the list, you add your items, any strings are separated by, just like when we printed out strings, they are in quotation marks and separated by commas. If I wanted to create like a blank list with nothing in it, I don't know, let's just say, let's say I have a list of like holidays, right? And I don't add anything to my list yet. This is how you would create a blank list, which is kind of self-explanatory, that you have your open and close brackets, and that signifies to Python that you're going to create a list there eventually. All right, so that's a blank list, but this is how you would create a list. Now, in a list, each item has a certain index number. So this is index 0. Blue is index 0. This is index 1, index 2, 3, and 4. So even though there's 5 items in this list, computers start counting at 0. And this is element 0 or item 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's say I create another list, and I'll call this grades. And I'll list, say, your grades in a class, and I'll give 5 grades. So let's say like a 94. You start off the year well, but then you like slack and get like a 67 on an assignment, and then you get like an 84, and then maybe a 90, and let's say you finish off strong with like a 96. So a few things to notice here. I create a list, and in this list I added integers. Now, these numbers are not inside quotation marks. Only strings go inside quotation marks. These numbers do not, because we're going to be eventually doing operations on these numbers, and we want to use integers. So Python recognizes these as integers, and if you look at the color that I'm using inside my REPL here, these are a different color than the green numbers. All right, so I have 2 lists here, and the same thing. Like if I want to look at my list, this is index 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So its index number, the list will always start with an index of 0. The first item is index 0. And this is index 1, index 2, 3, and 4. Index 0, index 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now I could add more than 5 items to my list. I could add an endless number of items. Some lists that you'll work with in the future might be thousands of items in a list. So you might not always know how many items are in your list. But that's how you would create a list. And I think the reason I put numbers in a list versus strings in a list, just know that the strings are in quotation marks and the numbers are not. They're still separated by commas though. All right. The second thing I want to do is I want to talk about how to access a list item by its index. So the way I can do that is, let's say I want the very first value in my colors list, which will be blue. I know that because I can see the list. Let's say I want the first item. The way I would do that is I would type out colors, and then I would use my square brackets and put the index number inside of it. And since computers start counting at 0, and this is index 0, I'm going to go ahead and type 0. Okay. Now, if I print this out, this should give me blue. So when I run this, it's going to go to colors. It's going to pick out index 0 and really print out blue on the screen over here. Let's run it. And sure enough, it worked, which is awesome. And something that I didn't do before is if I wanted to print out all of my items in the list, so let's say I want to print out all the items in colors, I can just type colors inside a print function and run it. And it prints out all the colors that are in my list. And then I also printed out the first item, or index 0, in my list. The same thing goes for grades. If I want to print out all my grades, I can go ahead and do that by just typing print and then my list name, which is grades. That prints out the colors list. It prints out the grades list, and then it prints out the color that's at index 0 in the list. So whatever is in index 0. And if I want to change this, let's say, I don't know, let's say I wanted to access index 2. Okay, that would be 0, 1, 2. So if I run this, it should print out pink. Sure enough, it does. Okay, if I try using an index that doesn't exist, so let's say I do index 5, where 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, there is no 5. If I try running this, I get an error, and it says list index out of range, because I don't have an index 5. It's out of the range of my list. I can't access it. So that's when you would notice that error and say, oh, maybe I meant index 4. And then I run it, and sure enough, it prints index 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. This very same thing could be used with numbers, right? With my grades list, right? I could say grades, and I want the first value, the first item, which would be index 0. Say I want 94 to print out. It should print out all the colors, all the grades, and then it will print out black, and then it will print out 94. Let's run it. Black, 94. And that's how I would access a certain item in a list by its index number. This number is called an index. Okay, and you would use these square brackets and put that index number inside of it. Okay, I wrote finding a certain item in a list by using its index number. And another name for an item is an element. Okay, so you might hear me say element. You might see element on an AP exam, for example. Element is used very commonly with item. Okay, so how do you access multiple items in a list? Let's say you don't want to print out the entire list. Let's say you only want to print out a few items from your list. The way I can do that is I can go ahead, I'll go ahead and just remove one of these print functions. I can use a colon. So if I say 2:4, that will give me all the items that start with index 2 all the way through and stopping at index 4. So if I'm looking at this, let's look at the colors. This is 0, 1, 2. So I'm going to print out pink, which is index 2. I'm going to print out red, which is index 3. And then I'm going to stop before I get to 4. So if I run this right now, it should print out pink, red, and then that's it. Ready? Let's go ahead and run it. Pink, red. If I want it to include black, right, I would go ahead and put this at 5 and run it, even though there's not a fifth element in this list, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It stops at 5 and does not include 5. So if I say, I don't know, let's say items 1 through 4, stopping at 4, this should print out, it skips over 0, and it prints out yellow, 1, pink, 2, red, 3, and stops before I get to black. So this should really print out yellow, pink, red. Let's run it. And it prints out yellow, pink, red. All right, so that's how you would print out multiple items in a list. Okay, so how to access multiple list items by using indexes. I also want to show you guys, well, what if you only want the first 3? A shortcut to that would be, let's say I just put colon here in the 3. Rather than putting a number before it, what this does is it takes everything before the 3 in the list. I could put like 0 there, but you don't need to. You can just put this colon here, and it will print out the first 3 items in my list. So it prints out blue, yellow, and pink. If I extend this and say colon 4. right? It should print out blue, yellow, pink, red, and stop before it gets to the fourth item, or fourth element. Okay, so I get blue, yellow, pink, and red. And that's always useful. But let's say also, I don't know, these lists, we see the end of the list, and we can easily count how many items are in a list. But what if we don't know how many items are in a list? And let's say I'm looking at, I'll use the grades list for this example. Let's say I'm looking at a really long list of grades, right? And I don't know how many grades are in the list, but I know I don't want to, for some reason, let's say you don't want to include the first grade of the year. But then I have this list of all these other grades. The way you can access all the other grades is very similar to how we just access the first bit. We can use, like, let's say I don't want to include this 0, so I can say 1 and then just add this colon here, and it'll give me everything to the end of the list. Let's go ahead and run it and see what we get. Sure enough, I get 67, 84, 90, and 96. No matter how many items I had in that list, whether it was just 5 items or thousands of items in that list, it would go all the way until it hit the very end of that list and print out all of the grades in that list. All right, so that's how you would use the colon without adding a second number there. You know, I can see how many items are in this list, but in the future, you might not be able to see or count or want to count all the items that are in a list. Okay. The next thing is how to change, I guess, how to assign an item in a list to a variable. Let's say I wanted to pull out one of these grades, right? And rather than printing it out, right, let's say I want to pull out, pull out like your lowest grade. And I can see your grades here. So this won't calculate your lowest grade, but I can see it. I can assign it grades and then say index number 0, 1, right? And then what that does is that pulls out whatever grade is at index 1. It doesn't take it out of the list, it just is accessing it and assigns it the value, assigns it to the variable lowest grade. Then if I print out lowest grade, okay, it should print out whatever I have stored in lowest grade, which is going to be index 1, which is 67. Okay, and I get 67. And you could put any index number in here, right? Even though this isn't your lowest grade, you can put a number in here and it would give it to you. All right. And then also, I guess I'll put that back where it was. Also, I want to talk about how to change an item of a list. Let's say you notice, hey, you know what? I did not do well on this project. I got a 67 on it. Hey, Mr. Danza, can I redo that project? Let's say I say, okay, you can go ahead and redo it. And what you would do is, right, you would really be replacing that grade with a new grade. So the way I can do that is I can say grades and then write my index number. So grades 1, I can assign that a new value. So let's go ahead and assign it. Let's say you redo it and you get an 88. Decent grade. Okay, so I'll go ahead here and print out the original grades. And then afterwards, I'll print out the new grades and you'll see the difference. The grade should be changed now. So if I run this, here's a list of the old grades, 94, 67, 84, 90, 96. And let's say I make a change to 67, which is in index 1, and I replace it with an 88, it then prints that out. Okay, so if you're ever like looking at a program that's changing a number, it might be accessing it via its index. Okay, so let's say we would change an item of a list. So I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to Go ahead and put this inside a block string and then push it down here. And this is just so I don't have it on my screen. I'm not forgetting entirely about it, but putting it down there that I can access later if I really wanted to. All right, so we're going to talk about a few methods. First, we're going to talk about the insert method. So, I don't know, let's go ahead and recreate my grades list. And let's say you get an 87 on the first assignment, a 79, a 100, and then maybe we get a 94 and an 82, right? And just to make everything the same, I went through and just add these spaces. I don't have to add these spaces, but I can if I want to. Down here, I added the spaces. You don't have to. But let's say this is my list. And let's say I'm about to look at my grade book and I realize, I think, oh my goodness, I just messed up. I only have 5 grades in the grade book, but I've actually had 6 projects, and I didn't include the 3rd project. This is actually project 1, project 2, project 4, project 5, project 6. How do I put the grade that my students got for project 3, how do I put that in the 3rd place in the list? Well, you can use that. You can do that by using the insert method. So if I go ahead and just print out grades now, the original list of grades, but then also I take grades and I use the insert method. And what I'm going to do is first I'm going to type the index of where I want to put my grade, which is going to be at 0, 1, and 2. I want it in the 2nd index position. And then I'm going to type the grade or the value of what belongs there. And the value, let's say you did well on it, you got a 98. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and print out my new list of grades. And what really this does is I'll run it and then explain it. Okay, notice that the 98 went in the 3rd position and pushed everything else back. Okay, it didn't take 100's place. It got placed in the 3rd position, or index number 0, 1, 2. It got put in index 2 and pushed everything back to the right. Okay, so that grade is now in its right place. I'm able to look at my list and see that everything's in there and everything's in order. And that's how you would use the insert method. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put a block string around this before I talk about the append method in a list. We do that. All right, that looks good. And then I'll go ahead here and push that down. So let's say I create a list, and let's say I call it 5-letter words. And in this list, I create it and it's blank. It's a blank list to start off with. And I'm going to go ahead and add a while true infinite loop. And I'm going to create a variable called new word. And I'm going to ask the user to type a 5-letter word. And after they type the 5-letter word, it gets stored in this variable called new word. And let's say I want to add this 5-letter word to my list. The way I would do that is I would take my list name, 5-letter words, use the append method, which means add on to the end of the list. Append means add on to the end, and then type my variable name. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to create a blank list. I'm going to create a forever loop that just loops through and asks you to type a 5-letter word. Okay, it doesn't evaluate if it's a 5-letter word, but then it will store it into a variable called new word. I'm then going to take a look at my list that's blank right now, but each time it will add a value to it, and it will append it and add it to the very end, the new word that I write. the last thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and print out the list. So 5-letter words. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this. Type a 5-letter word, field. Type another 5-letter word, paint. Another 5-letter word, oh goodness, glove. Right? So if you notice, it's printing out my updated list each time. It's appending my list and adding the value onto the end. All right, what's one more? I almost said snow. That's a 4-letter word. Stick. Right? Thinking about like a field hockey stick or a lacrosse stick. These are all like sports words. Or maybe not field, glove, stick, plate. Right? So these are all 5-letter words, and they're being stored inside this list, and I'm printing this list out. So if you ever want to add items to the end of a list, you would use the append method. All right. And let me go ahead here and create a block string. And I'm also going to use the remove method. All right, so I'll go ahead and go back to my colors example, right? And I had a list of colors. And let's just add a couple colors to my list. Blue. Let me start off with blue. Brown. Say gold. Turquoise. Maybe that's how you spell it. And I'll just end with like yellow. Whoops, got to put it inside quotation marks. There you go. Let's say this is my list: blue, brown, gold, turquoise, yellow. And I'll go ahead and print out all the colors in this list, right? So I'll stop this and run it. And it prints out all the colors: blue, brown, gold, turquoise, yellow. Let's say I wanted to take an item out of my list, and I could do that by using the remove method. Okay, so if I type in like my list name dot remove, and I type the item I want to remove from the list, let's say I want to remove blue, and then print out my new list, I can do that. And now, if you look, this was my original list. I printed out blue, brown, gold, turquoise, yellow. I took out blue and then reprinted out my list, and that gives me brown, gold, turquoise, yellow. All right, so I removed that item from the list using the dot remove method. All right, let's say I wanted to, and I'll go ahead and put this inside a block string, and I'll push this down. Okay, let's say I go back to this colors list right here, and let's say I want to find the length of the list. Okay, we want to find how many items are actually in this list. Well, what I could do is I could use the length function and just type in the name of the list. Now, if I want to print out and see how many items are actually in the list, okay, print out, should print out all the colors and then how many items are in it. So 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do note, importantly, do note that this number is not 4. It's not saying it's index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. It literally counts the number of items in a list and returns it. So just note that the length function, the purpose of the length function is to count the number of items in a list. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items in this list. It doesn't worry about indexing a list. It just thinks about how many items are in that list. All right. So I'll go ahead and put that into a block string, a 1-line block string, right? And I'll push that down. All right, so I'm gonna print out blue, brown, gold, turquoise, yellow. Okay, let's say I want to loop through all of the values in this list, and that is called traversing a list. Now you can traverse through a partial traversal, which is only partially through the list, or you can do a full traversal, which really that's just like I said, when you think of the word traversal, I'm not a big fan of the word traversing. Really just means looping through values or items in a list. But the way we can do that is by using a for loop. So let me explain how to do this. So I'll briefly comment this out. I'm going to access it here in a few minutes, but what I'm going to do is, well, I actually want to use that. And we'll comment out print. What I want to do here is I want to write a for loop and say for, and then if I use I as a variable, you can use any variable you want, but I is very common in for loops. If I say for I in the list colors, meaning for all the values in the list colors, loop through and print out each item. Okay, so for each index, what this small loop is going to do, and remember we talked about this when we talked about the difference between while loops and for loops. I mentioned that for loops are really good with lists, and you're going to want to use for loops. So to explain this, right, some of you might be looking at this and be confused. This is going to start at 0, okay? So for loops, whatever you set this variable at will always start at 0. So for 0 in the list, so for the first index, so for index 0, I'm going to print out blue. I'm then going to add 1 to the variable, which then gives me 1. 0 plus 1 is 1. And then so the first index, 1 in colors, print that, which is brown. Then we're going to print gold. Then we're going to print turquoise. Then we're going to print yellow. Let's go through and let's run this. I get blue, brown, gold, turquoise, and yellow. And I have traversed, or I'm traversing this list and looping through all the items in this list. Now I want you to notice something. We already printed out all the items in the list by just typing print colors. Take a look at this. So this is the difference. If I want to just print out the items in a list with brackets and quotation marks, I can do that by just saying print that. But if I don't want the brackets and I don't want the single quotes, you can go through and in this for loop through and print each of the items in a list. Okay, blue, brown, gold, turquoise, yellow. Okay, and it goes through each individually. So that's just important to note there, that when you traverse a list, it is a little bit different from just printing out a list. And I'll go ahead and even put that in there. And I'll say different from just printing out a list. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put this in a block string, and I'll push it down. All right, all that goes down there. All right, so the 3 functions I want to talk about, the max, the min, and sum functions. And we'll go ahead and create another list of grades. Maybe I'll make this list a little bit longer. So you start off with a 96, and then a 78, and then a 93, 87, 86, 89, 90, 94, 97, and you just bomb the last one, 63, right? So let's say this is a list of your grades. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 items in this list. This would be index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So let's say I want to find the max, the highest value in this list. You can, rather than, let's say the list is, like I mentioned before, a very, very, very long list. If I want to pull out just the max value, I can look at this and see that. But if I'm looking at a really long list, that can be tedious and boring. So I can use this max function, right, and just type in the list name. And I'll go ahead and print it out so that way you can see what it is. So I'll go ahead and run it, and it prints out 97. If I were to change a value, right, I don't know, let's say I change this to like a 99, right, and then I run it, it rescans it and says, oh yeah, that number changed, 97 is no longer the highest grade, 99 is the highest grade. So max works, and very similarly, and I'll even just copy this, you can find the minimum grade by using the min function. So run this, 99 is my maximum grade, and 63 is my minimum grade. And if I want to total all of these grades together, right, what I can do is I can use something called the sum function, and it adds all these grades together. If I print it out, 99, 63, 88, 883 is my sum. All right. Now, you could go through and just like divide this number by 10. And you could just say, oh, like in order to find the average, you take the number of grades and then divide the sum by the number of grades, right? So I could say like your average would be your sum of all the grades added up, and then you would divide that by how many grades there are. So there's 10, right? And then I could just like print out the average, and it will give me 88.3 is the average, right? So these are all my grades in 88.3. All I did was move the decimal point 1 to the left, right? So I divide it by 10. But let's say you have so many grades, you don't even know how many grades are in there, or so many values. What you can do is, in order to save some time, you can import a module. I'm going to import statistics. I'm going to go ahead and click there. And I can use a method called the mean method. And mean is another name for average. And you probably have learned that in math class before, but mean is another name for average. So if I want to find the average of all these grades, I don't need to do any of this. All I need to do is say, I can say statistics, had a moment there, statistics dot mean, and then just put the list name inside of it. Okay, and I can just print out the value, right? So I'll print out, and we'll run it, and I get 88.3. Okay, so I don't have to like go through and manually find the sum or do any of that. It will just use this mean method, okay, and it will go through and find the average of all of your grades, which is an 88.3, which is a B+. Okay, so that's how you would use the mean method. Make sure you're importing the statistics module. That's very important. And I'll go through here and put this inside a block string. And once again, push that down below here, off the screen. All right, so, whoops, there we go. So let's say we want to index a string. Okay, and what I mean by that is, let's say we want to find a certain letter in a string. So I'll go ahead and just create a string here, and I'll say name, and I'll just say Danza, right? My last name is Danza. So if I wanted to only print out, I want to print out the first letter of my last name. The way I could do that is I type name. In the same way I use items and lists using square brackets, I would use those same square brackets on a variable and just put the index number. So what this is going to do, when I print this out, it will only print out, it will look at my variable name, and it will go to index, so this is index 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So what this will print out, it will print out a capital D. If I run this, print out D. So pretty cool. If I change this to index 3, remember this is index D is 0, 1, 2, 3. So it prints out Z. Run it and get Z. Pretty cool, right? So even further here, let's say I wanted to print out each of the letters in my name. So let's say I want to print out each letter individually. I could do that in a for loop, right? I could say for I in name, just the variable, print I. Same way we did in a list. Remember how we printed out all the values in a list? You can print out all the characters in a string. So watch this. Run D A N Z A. So I was able to take my name, as I print out my name here. So I print out Danza, and I was able to separate each letter in my name. Well, why would that be important if we're playing Wheel of Fortune? We have to be able to pick out individual letters and see if the user's guess is actually inside of the word. Okay, if the letter they guess is inside of it, using a conditional statement, using a conditional statement, and then being able to look at each individual letter, okay, and to access each letter by its index. So like if the guess is index 4, and then once that index is identified, let's say Danza is the Wheel of Fortune word, and you guess Z, it has to loop through and look at the D. I guess imagine like a blank like puzzle. Imagine Wheel of Fortune, blank letters up on the screen, right? It loops through and says, all right, it looks at D, it looks at A, it looks at N. It is Z. Now I have to replace that blank word. I have to replace Z up on the screen. How do I do that? Okay, so that's actually the next thing I'm leading into. How to slice a string and replace a certain letter in the string by its index. So I don't know, let's say I have let's say my puzzle board, and I use that in my example right here. Let's say I have a puzzle board, and that's going to give me, let's say it's a string of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blank letters. So in Wheel of Fortune, the way it works is you spin a wheel, land on a specific number or a certain money amount, and they say the number out loud. They say like 700. That's how much money each letter they guess is. And let's say you guess Z. You respond back, yes, there's one Z. And then the board goes ding, and the Z pops up. And Vanna White walks over and presses the Z, and the Z pops up, right? Or the blank letter. So our puzzle board's going to be blank. But let's say the secret name, secret word that they're trying to guess. Let's say that's Danza, right? And then from there, let's go ahead and pull let's say the user guesses, so letter guess, let's say their guess is Z. All right, so what we need to do is we need to replace the secret word. Let's say we know that Z is in there. Okay, I'm not going to run through the conditional for it, but let's say we want to put Z in the fourth, 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3 in the third index. Okay, so what I would do is, you might think, oh, well, can I just do this? Can I say secret word index 3? Can I just go ahead, can I just say puzzle board index 3? Can I just replace that with Z, right? And then just print out the puzzle board? Or you're going to get an error. Watch this. I run it, it says string object does not support item assignment, right? So I can't do that. I'm going to have to first do something called slice the string up. Okay, you can't just take, even though you can access certain letters, like I can access this Z by using this, I can't change it by assigning it. That's not how it works. So I have to slice this up. The way I would slice it up is I have to put, actually, let's say puzzle board, and then I would have to put all the values before whatever index we're talking about here. In this case, we're talking about index 3, right? All the letters before, slice that up, okay? And then we're going to replace it with, we're going to replace value 3 with the letter guess, index 3. And then we're going to tag on the rest of it. So whatever was in the puzzle board, right? Whatever was after 3, right? Whatever was after that, I'm going to have to add 1 to it. So really that would be 4, and then the rest of it. So what we've done is we've taken all the values, so D, A, and N, okay? I've then went ahead and put a Z where it's supposed to go. And then I took my puzzle board and the rest of the letters that were in this, which is really just an A, 4 to the end of it, and replace it with that blank. So if I want to print all of this out, right? Let's say I just say, I don't know, this is my new puzzle board. Place the old puzzle board, and this is the new puzzle board. And now I print out puzzle board. Okay, I now have the Z placed where it needs to go. So you spin the wheel, get a value. Someone says Z. Okay, is Z in the word? You're gonna have to figure out how to do that. Is Z in the word? If yes, then take the puzzle board, which is all blanks right now, and take whatever values are before, wherever it's at in there. So let's say it's at index 3, which we've already determined. We're going to have to loop through each letter and say all the values before, but then we're going to replace it with the letter guess, okay? And then all the values after that. So if I print out like a before, right? So print puzzle board before, and then print it after, and run it. So it looks like before, and I've replaced it with a Z. And that's important in order to keep your current puzzle board, right? And let's say I wanted to replace, like, all right, the next guess. Let's say the next letter guess. Here's what I'll do this. And let's say the next letter guess is, and let's say it's correct. Let's say it's N, right? We'll have to evaluate where it's at on here. And I noticed here, I'll move this up here too. Just make it look nice. So that way it's symmetrical. Right, so what I'll do here is I'll literally copy this. Okay, remember that it was N is at anything before index 2. My letter guess in there, and then everything past 3, let's go ahead and push onto the end of it. All right, and then we'll say print puzzle board, and we'll run this. Okay, so now if you look at the updated board, it prints out blank. You guessed Z, and Z showed up there. You guessed N, and N replaced this blank, but Z is still up there. And that's how I would do that. And when I walk through the Wheel of Fortune game here in a few minutes, you guys are going to see how I do it, it's going to make a little bit more sense in the scope of the entire program. So I've kind of pulled this out and showed you this because we're going to use this. And this is probably the piece that you might get stuck on the most, or maybe might not understand fully. The main thing, what I'm doing is, rather than replacing a letter in here, you can't replace this letter. But what you can do is you can create a new string and slice the old string up. Okay, so we've sliced up the string. And that's how you would how to slice a string and replace a certain letter in a string by its index. So just going through everything we talked about, a lot of things involving lists. We have how to create a list, how to access a list item by its index. We talked about indexes, how computers start counting at 0. How to access multiple items in a list by using this colon. Okay, put a colon before, and that gets you everything before the 3rd index. Colon after gets you anything after the 4th index. How to assign an item in a list to a variable. And how to change an item of a list by its index. Okay, we learned how to do that. We learned about these 3 methods. Insert inserts it at a certain location in the list. Append just adds it onto the end of the list. And remove selects an item and removes it from a list. The length function with lists allows you to find how many items are actually in that list. Traversing a list just means looping through with a for loop all the items in the list. And then we talked about the min, max, and sum functions, which help you find the maximum value, the minimum value, and sum of a list. We talked about the mean method, which is also another word for average, and is found in the statistics module. We then talked about strings and how to use these brackets with strings and how to index a certain letter in a string or a certain character. And then how to slice a string and replace certain letters in the string by its index. Okay? I guess I'll put because you're not actually replacing it, you're creating a new string, but it will sort of look like you're replacing it. All right, so that's all I've got for that. We've talked about all these Python topics. Make sure to watch these videos. In the project this week, you do not have to use Tkinter, but you need to know these things for the future when we talk about Tkinter. And I'm purposely spacing it out so that way you don't have to watch 30 videos one week, right? I'm purposely spacing it out so that way you guys can take the time and watch them now. And if you want to use Tkinter in this project, you can. Okay, but you need to know this information eventually, and I figured now is the best time to do that, so that way you're not swamped over what's to come in future weeks. All right, so lists. The way statements are sequenced and combined in a program determines the computed result. Programs incorporate iteration and selection constructs to represent repetition and make decisions to handle varied input values. None of that to me was important. It's just their way of this is from College Board. This is their way of making a very formal statement before introducing what a list is, right? So for list operations, write and evaluate expressions that use list indexing. We talked about indexes and list procedures. Okay, we talked about how to access an element by its index, right, inside brackets. We talked about how to assign an item inside a list to a variable and how to do the opposite and how to assign a value to an element of a list, how to replace an item in a list. On the AP exam, we talk about insert, append, and remove, which are the same exact functions in Python. So the same function names in Python, method names. So you guys should not have a problem with that on the AP exam. And then there's also the length function that exists. On the AP exam, they just say length like that. It says list procedures are implemented in accordance with the syntax rules of the programming language, which just means every programming language has their own language and way of writing things. And just be aware of that. For algorithms involving elements of a list, write iteration statements to traverse a list, and determine the result of an algorithm that includes list traversals. So traversals are just looping through a list. Traversing a list, and I put over here looping through items in a list, can be a complete traversal where you loop through all the items in the list, or a partial traversal where only a portion, let's say only the odd items in a list. Iteration statements can be used to traverse a list. They've used a for loop on the AP exam for each item for I in list name, very similar to Python. The variable item is assigned the value of each element of a list sequentially in order from the first element to the last element. The code in blocks of statements, that's just weird English. The code in blocks of statements, I'll say blocks of statements, are executed once. I figure out what's it trying to say here. The code in blocks of statements. Oh, okay, whatever. The code in blocks of statements. The code is executed once for each assignment of item. Got it. Knowledge of existing algorithms that use iteration can help in constructing new algorithms. Some examples of existing algorithms that are often used with lists include determining a minimum or maximum value in a list. We did that. Computing a sum or average of a list of numbers. We did that. Linear search or sequential search algorithms. Check each item of a list in order until it's found. So if you're ever looking through a list, right, a linear search starts at the beginning and just looks through 1, 2, 3, 4, and looks for an item in a list. A binary search is different, okay? The way statements are sequenced and combined in a program determines the computed result. Programs incorporate iteration and selection constructs to represent repetition and make decisions to handle varied input values. That's the same exact thing as what it said for lists. So for binary search algorithms, determine the number of iterations required to find a value in a data set and explain the requirements necessary to complete a binary search. So the binary search algorithm starts at the middle of a sorted data set. So difference between a linear search and a binary search. The binary search starts at the middle and it's looking for the value, and if it just cuts off half the information at a time until it finds it. So it starts in the middle and either cuts off the top half or the bottom half. If it's in the bottom half, then it cuts off the top half, and it looks in the middle of that. So the binary search is accomplished by always going to the middle. This process repeats until the desired value is found and all elements have been eliminated. Data must be in sorted order. If data is not sorted, binary searches do not work. Very, 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 very important. Mark it down, note it, put it in your notebook. Binary searches. In order to do a binary search, all the items in the list must be sorted in order. Okay? Binary search is often more efficient than sequential and linear searches when applied to sorting data. All right? Just a key thing. So know the difference between a linear search, which starts at the top and goes through, and a binary search, which starts in the middle and just starts and eliminates half the data set each time. All right? So now we have this Wheel of Fortune project. How do we do this? What do we do? All right, so let me walk you through it. I'll go ahead and close out of here. All right. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go back to that because I'm going to copy some of the notes that I made here and give it to you guys. So I'll copy that. Copy. Oh goodness, now I got to take out all the comment symbols though now. Oh my goodness. Yep, I'll do that later. Oh man. I guess maybe if I put it in I'll go ahead and create a new, no. Put it in here, and then I'll paste it. Take that formatting out. That formatting was going to get me. Right? So bear with me while I do this real quick. Start thinking about how Wheel of Fortune works, though. Wheel of Fortune, normally, I guess this game is a combination, what I'm creating for you guys is a combination between like the old game Hangman. Like it wants you to do like, a lot of people start off with the game Hangman, but I don't like the game Hangman. Hangman, you're like hanging someone by a noose. Like that's not okay. Like that's a very outdated, not okay game. So we've made it sort of like Hangman, but using Wheel of Fortune. So it's a little mix of both, but I don't feel like Hangman is appropriate anymore. Some of you guys might think otherwise, but just saying, I don't think that's appropriate. So we're doing Wheel of Fortune instead. And we'll talk about this. And it says, in this project, you will make a Wheel of Fortune game. Even if you have never watched the game show Wheel of Fortune, that is okay. Like your excuse can't be, I don't know how Wheel of Fortune works. No, you're gonna be okay. If you really want to know how Wheel of Fortune works, go on YouTube and search Wheel of Fortune or like Wheel of Fortune fails, and you can see some funny things. All right, so this project begins assuming you have watched the Python GUI app videos from the last two projects. Okay, so if you haven't watched the videos from the last two projects, you need to watch them. You're going to really be not liking life when you have to watch like 40 videos one week because you need to catch back up. And I give you a quiz on all these videos. Make sure you're watching them. Make sure you're taking notes. This week we're watching 17 videos in the playlist above, starting with what is a frame through add button functionality to an image. Okay, I need you guys to watch these videos. All right, your game must do the following. These are the things that it has to do. It can do other things, but it has to do these things. And by the way, my beard is getting like really long. I just looked at myself down there, and it's getting crazy. Explain the rules of the game to the user. So explain, like, all right, what are we going to do? Select a rant or keep track of and display the user's prize money. All right, so maybe I'll go ahead and open up my project in the process of this, right? So I'll go ahead here, open up idle. All right, you can use Tkinter. I'm not going to use Tkinter in this example because I don't want to confuse you guys. So I'm going to save as Wheel. I've already made several Wheel of Fortune games, right? Wheel of Fortune, and I'll just put today's date. I'll start from scratch, right? Wheel of Fortune 12/16, and the time is 12:20. Right, so starting fresh. And I guess I'll start off and I'll just print out, say like Wheel of Fortune, right? So that'll be the first thing. It just prints across the top of the screen, right? Wheel of Fortune. All right, so explain the rules of the game to the user. All right, so let's say print rules of the game. And let's just say you get, let's make it where you only get 5 incorrect guesses of a letter. So after 5 incorrect guesses, you lose the game. And I'll say, like, if you say game title, and then I'll just say game rules, and this is a comment here. Maybe I'll add this before rules of the game. I'll say the wheel will automatically spin for you. All right, and I'll say and will land on a random prize amount. Okay, so it's gonna spin and it's gonna land on a random prize amount, and we'll set that later. And then I'll say something like, you must guess a letter, not a number or say lowercase. A lowercase letter, not a number or a symbol. Okay. If you guess a correct letter in the puzzle, I guess I'll start this off. You will be given a blank puzzle to start from a category. You can say something like, I'll add where all the letters, or sorry, all the words from like my list of words that could be, all the words will be 5-letter words. So you'll be given a blank puzzle from a, you'll be given a random blank puzzle to start. Maybe this should be up here. I'll go ahead and say, you will be given a random blank puzzle to start. And land a random prize. I can say something like, the puzzle will be a 5-letter word. I'm only going to include 5-letter words in this just to make it easy. If you guys want to know why, if there's more, I guess you can do multiple lengths, but we're just going to make it simple. All right, we're just going to make it where they're all 5-letter words. So that way you're not looking through a bunch of different things. The wheel will automatically spin for you. And the spinner will land on a random prize amount. You must guess a lowercase letter, not a number or a symbol. Maybe I'll say no numbers or symbols. And then if you guess a correct letter in the puzzle, it will show up on the 4. After 5 incorrect letter guesses, you lose the game. And then I can say something like a list of your correct, and I'll say lists. List of your correct and incorrect letter guesses will be provided. Okay, and we'll start there. All right, so the way it works is you're going to be given a random blank puzzle to start. And the puzzle will be a 5-letter word that you're trying to guess. So like it could be like something like that. And you're trying to guess it. The wheel will automatically spin for you. You don't have to spin it, right? And the spinner will land on a random prize number. You must guess a lowercase letter, no numbers or symbols. How do we prevent that? If you guess a correct letter in the puzzle, it will show up on the game board. After 5 incorrect letter guesses, you lose the game. All right, so those are the rules. We're going to put them out. All right, so let's go ahead here and let's think. What variables am I going to need? And maybe I do this even. Let's do this. Maybe I go ahead and define a function, and I define it as rules, right? And then I'll go ahead and do this, right? I do this. This would still work, right? If I go down here, whoops, click enter, and then, right, let's say I just like call the rules function. Let's say I run it, must save, okay? I run it and it just prints all that out. Cool. All right, so that works. But I'm thinking about my game. I'm thinking what I need. First, let's make a list of possible letters. Take possible guesses, right? And I can make a list here. It's probably going to be boring going through, but since we're going through lists, there are more efficient ways of doing this. But since we're going through lists and we want to check lists, this is going to be good to do this. So we're going to create a list here of every single E, F, G, every single letter in the alphabet. I, J, K, L, oops, that was L. Again, this is a 26 item list. And halfway there, O, P, Q, R, S, T, whoops, not capitalized, T, U, D, W, X, Y, and Z. Alright, so I went ahead here and created a really, really, really long list. 26, these are all possible guesses. Alright, so let's also create a list of my secret 5-letter words, right? What is the list of words I can choose from? And let's maybe pick a certain category. So, secret words. I'll just say 5-letter words. Okay, and I'll create my list. And let's say the category is, I guess I'll do sports, right? So I'll do like field, glove, stick. That's another good one. Plate for like home plate. Score, S-C-O-R-E. Yeah, that's a good one. One more. Let's say, is that B-O-U-N? Yeah, that's how you spell it. I was gonna say bounce. Basket, that's 6. Should I stick at 5? Yeah, I'll just stick with these 5. And if we think of more along the way, I'll add them. But I want to keep them to a specific category, so that way they're not like the user isn't like guessing random things. It's hard to guess. These are a little bit easier, like a field to play on, a glove, lacrosse or hockey stick, right? Plate, home plate in baseball, and then the score. So these are all sports things. So 5-letter words. All right. I think what else I'm going to need in my game. I'm going to need a list of money values, right? So I guess I'll say spin, or I'll say prize. Kind of be specific. Money values. I'll just start with that. And I think Wheel of Fortune starts at like 500, right? But we'll be a cheap version of Wheel of Fortune. We'll start at 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700. And then we'll like skip to, I don't know, let's put even some cheaper values. I don't want to be giving out. Man, if I had a game show giving people out money, I wouldn't want to give people money. I want to give them the least amount possible here. So being cheap, right? So 400, then I'll say like 450, right? 500. But I guess you gotta give some higher amounts, or else people are gonna stop coming to the show, right? So I'll add $1,000 in there, right? And maybe I'll be like super generous, and I'll add one like $5,000, right? That's a good. Imagine $5,000 for guessing a letter. That's a pretty good deal. All right, so these are my money values. I'm trying to think of anything else I might need here. Oh, I think I want to set how many incorrect guesses do I start off with. So I'm going to start off with like incorrect guesses. I'm going to start off with 0. When you first start the game, you're going to start with 0. And then I'll say like total prize money. I'll start that off at 0 when you first start the game too. Let me think if there's anything else. I'm sure there is. And I'll update it as we go. Let's take a look back at this. Okay, keep track of and display the user's prize money. Okay, so where are we at? All right, we're here. I'm going to close out of all these other ones so I'm not confused. I get confused easily. Keep track of and display the user's prize money. Total prize money. Cool. Select a random word from a list. Okay. So let's go ahead here and let's select a random word. So I'm going to import, I guess these are my lists and variables. Initialize. And these are going to be my functions. have one right here right now, but and let's say up here, I'll just say the very top, I'll put my import random. Move this too. I'll just put like game starts here. How many did I do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Alright. So the game's going to start there. I imported the random module. And the reason is because what I'm going to do is, after I say the rules, I'm going to, I'll leave that there. I'll move this out of the way. After I print out the rules, okay, just say like game rules, and then I'll go ahead and I will select a random word. Select a random word from list. So I'll like create a variable called like secret word, and I'll assign it the value of random.choice. It's going to pick a random choice from the list, 5-letter words. And just to make sure it works real quick, I'll print it out, right? And we'll run it. So my secret word should be a value from this list. What did I do wrong? Show me where I went wrong. Show me where I went wrong. Is it maybe at the end of here? Yeah, that's what it was. I think I heard it go off before. I think it was trying to warn me before. I used a parenthesis instead of a bracket there. Rookie mistake. All right, so, and it gave me plate. All right, let's run it again. Gave me score. All right, so it's picking a random one each time. That's good. It's working. So I can get rid of that. All right, so it selects a random word from the list. All right, so now we're going to have to loop through and spin the wheel each time. So I'll add a while true loop. We're going to spin the wheel and do this. So I guess the first thing we'll do is you spin the wheel and land on and then I'm going to select a random value. Okay, a random money amount. So I'll say spin value. It's going to be a random value. So I'll say random.choice from money values. Okay, so it's going to assign that to spin value. And then I'm going to print out the money value. Or sorry, the spin value. The random value was that was created. Okay, so I'll say like, maybe I'll call it like rand spin. Oh no, let's say spin value. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to write an F string, and I'm going to put a $sign here. And then I'll go ahead and just put the spin value. Okay, and just run it. No, I actually haven't had any breaks yet, because then I'll just end in a forever loop, right? You spin the wheel and land on this. All right, this money amount. And then we have to ask the user. All right, here's where we're going to have to ask them. So that was, I'll call that the spin. Okay. And then after the spin comes the guess, right? You have to guess something. The letter guess. You can say something like letter guess. I'll use an input function and say guess a letter. And then I'll add a space there, so that way I have a little bit of space to guess the letter. And then I can say something like this. I can say if letter guess is not in possible guesses. I'll say if letter guess is in possible guesses. So if it's in this list, possible guesses, continue. All right. Do something, right? Blah, blah, blah. Else, print out your please guess a lowercase letter. Okay. So if it's in possible letters, and I'll say like, let's re-spin the wheel. Like I said, I could add another loop in there and just re-guess the letter, but I'm going to do it the easiest possible way. You didn't guess the letter? Oh, we'll just respin. And I'm not going to penalize you. Right? I could penalize you, but I'm not going to. So if letter is in the possible letter, so if it's any lowercase letter, right? We created that list and it looks inside of it, says, okay, well, it's in there somewhere, so we're good. All right, so if it's in there, what do we want to do? Let's think about it. Oh, I guess I never created my board either, right? So I knew I was forgetting something. My puzzle board. Okay, there's a bunch of blank letters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll put that inside quotation marks. Puzzle board. Okay. So if the letter is in the possible letters, okay, I'll say another one. I'll say if the letter guess is inside of the secret word, right? If it's in the secret word, then we'll continue and look even further, right? So if it's in secret word, do this. Else, if it's not inside the secret word, we're going to penalize you. So I'll say incorrect letter guess, and I'll say this is a correct guess. What I want to do here is I want to say correct I'll say num incorrect guesses here. So then correct letter guesses, and I'll create a list, a blank list to start off with the lists. And then I'll say incorrect letter guesses, assign this amount. All right, so these are blank lists that I'm going to store their guesses in by using the append method eventually. All right, so if the letter guess, if I know it's in the word, I need to search through and see what index it's at in the word. So let me think about this real quick. So the letter guess is in the secret word. Okay, so I could say something like, for I in so we know it's in the word. So we could say for I in secret word. So going through each of the letters in secret word. So if I'm looking at each letter, okay, I'm looking at each letter in the secret word. All right, so for I in secret word, and let's say my secret word is like field, I'm going to look through and see if the index letter, if secret word, if the index letter is equal to, okay, if the index in the letter is equal to the letter guess, doesn't like there. If it's equal to the letter guess, then I'm going to take the, and this is where I'm going to the puzzle board, right? I'm going to go to the puzzle board, and I'm going to take whatever was before, this is where I'm going to slice off puzzle board, whatever was before the index, keep there, and then we'll add letter guess, and then we'll take whatever was remaining from the puzzle board, say puzzle board, and I'll say I plus 1 and the rest of that. Okay, so that was the, remember originally we talked about this, we created this situation right here, letter guess, this is where that came from, right? So I went through that before and I determined, hey, they need to know this. So once again, what we did was we took a string and we sliced it up. Okay, so if, when it's going through the secret letters in the word, as I'm going through the letters of the secret word, let's say it's field, and I guess E, right? Is F E? No. Is I E? No. Is E equal to your letter guess E? Yes. Then change it. Okay? And it's just going to go through. I don't need an else there. All right? And let's say else, if it's incorrect, oh, I also need to add what I need to do at the end there. I need to add to after the loop is done, I need to add the correct letter guess to the list. And what I name the list up here, correct letter guesses. So correct letter guesses dot append, and I'm going to append it with the letter guess. Right. And then if I get an incorrect letter guess, I'm going to, and maybe I can print out the board too. So I'll print out, what was going on? Print puzzle board, right? And I'll go ahead and just say puzzle board and F string. I have to include my F there. I didn't do that yet. Add my quotation marks and my F. Okay, so that prints out my puzzle board and then adds a correct letter at the end. And then if it's incorrect, maybe I'll add something else here. Maybe I'll add print, say ding. Correct guess. And I'll close that off. Then I'll say down here, buzzer sounds incorrect guess. I'll get this star out of there. All right. And then I'll also add, say, incorrect letter guesses. I'll take that list and I'll append it. I'll add the letter guess to it. Whoops. And then also I will, let's see here. I'll say, what was the variable called? Num incorrect guesses. Say num incorrect guesses. And I'll add one to it. And then I can say something like if num incorrect guesses is equal to 5 for 5 incorrect guesses, right? Then I can go ahead and print out like you have exceeded the number of guesses said incorrect guesses. Maybe I can print out what the word was. Is that what you're not? What was the word? Right? I can say something like print the word was, and then I can just say secret word. F string, I've got to put that F out in front of there. And your secret word was blank. Okay. And then we got to break. We're going to break out of the loop. And I can also say something down here. You can say if the puzzle board, sorry, if maybe I'll put this character is not in puzzle board. Let's say it's not in the puzzle board. Means there's no more blanks, right? Print out you have solved the puzzle. And I'll say you win and then the prize money. So I'll say you win and then I'll put that there and then I'll say, what was it, total prize money? Total prize. Okay, once again I have to put that inside an F string. I use F strings whenever I'm dealing with these curly brackets here. All right, I also got to add prize money. Okay, so it's in secret word, correct letters, and then I have to add the prize money. So I'll say total prize money. I'm adding to whatever the spin value was. Okay, and then after I win, I want it to break, right? So break. All right, I'm not sure where I'm at right now. Usually at this point, I'll run it and then see my mistakes and then go back and fix it. So let's go ahead and run it. Oh, yep, I forgot a page marks there. All right, after 5 incorrect guesses, you lose the game. Guess a letter A. All right, so I need to print the board each time. That's my first. I never even seen the board yet, right? So I guess I want to print the board. So I guess the board. I'll print out puzzle. Like I said, I can create a function for this. It just like updates the puzzle board, but I'm just brute forcing, just moving through here, doing the easiest possible. Here, I'll do this. What's this? There you go. Puzzle board. After an incorrect guess, I want to print the puzzle board too. Okay. So maybe I don't need to print it out at the top here. Well, at the beginning, I guess I want to do it. Maybe I'll print this out at the beginning of the game. Yeah. All right, we'll run this. Let me make this, clean it up a little bit. Oh, unexpected indent. All right, so there you go. Run. Let's see where we're at. Let's see if we got any errors. All right, puzzle board. You spin the wheel and land on. All right, guess a letter A. Buzzer sound. Incorrect guess. Oh, I got to print out each time your letters, right? So, and I can say you land on right before the letter guess, okay? So what we'll do is I'll say this is like the letter guess update. So what I'll do is I'll print out and show you all of your correct letter guesses and all of your incorrect guesses. All right, let's see what this does. And run it. Well, I should probably look at me. F string, and I'll say correct guesses, and I'll put this in brackets, curly braces, and I'm going to copy this. So I'm going to be lazy and do this. I'm going to say incorrect. Say incorrect letter guesses. All right, run it again. Let's see where we're at. All right, runs through everything, all the rules, right? You spin the wheel and land on $450. Guess a letter A. String indices must be integers. All right, so I realized what I did wrong here. So I'm thinking for I in secret word, those are all letters. I need numbers. So for I in range, when we talk about the range, and we'll say range of 5, so it starts at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? This should help. I didn't actually run it yet. I just looked at it and thought of it. So let's try it. Incorrect guesses. E. There you go. It did it. It worked. One little thing. So the reason why, and I guess I'll keep looking at this. Let's say V. Correct guesses V, and updated it. This one's definitely glove, right? So O, right? And then I'll say L, and then G. You gotta solve the puzzle, and you win $2,200. All right, so that was the last little piece, something that small. So for I in range 5, the reason is because I can put a range of numbers 0 through and stopping at 5. And I was putting letters, and it was thinking about, and this is actually good. I'm glad you guys see that even I mess up on these little things. I don't cut this out and pretend like I'm perfect. I don't want to and some of you guys might need to fast forward through and if you want to get to the solution, I understand it. But by noticing how I experience these problems, you see how I think in certain situations. And I was looking at it, and I was just naturally thinking, oh yeah, well, in secret word, it has 5 letters, so what? But I wasn't thinking actually the number 5. I wasn't thinking in terms of numbers. So by making that little change, that should have fixed things. Let's run it again. All right, guess a letter A. Incorrect. E. Correct. I wonder if I get glove again. Yeah, of course I do. Right? Let's run it again. Let's make sure I don't get glove every time. Right? Oh. Incorrect. Alright, so it's not glove. E. Not an E. A. Does it have a vowel? I. Okay, so it has an I in it. I think it's maybe stick, right? Yep. K. S. And there you go. Alright, so let's try getting everything wrong. Let's see if I hit any errors. Let's guess Q. Alright, it should be the last one. 5th guess. Did you exceed the number of incorrect guesses? The word was glove. Maybe I'll say something like game over. Print game over. Alright. And the word was, and I'll put it inside. No, I'll just say it like that. The word was glove. Let me think here. I'll put it in single quotes. How about that? The word was glove. And what else do I want to do really quick in here? Oh yeah, I want to try what happens if I don't enter a letter. right? Let's say I enter 2, right? It just respins the wheel for me, right? 3, yeah. Notice that doesn't go towards incorrect guesses, right? And you are allowed to, it does allow where you can re-guess the same letter over and over and over, which is fine. All right, so let's take a look at this. Let me maybe pull this over here. So I only made one function, but if you want to go back and actually turn some of these into functions, you can. I was able to do this in not too many lines of code. I only created one function. I set the prize money. Some changes I could make. I could loop through. I think one thing that happens I don't like, I think I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to import the time module because I don't like how it just like throws all this information at you at once, right? So time.sleep, and then maybe I'll say time.sleep, and I'll put 2 seconds, right? So that way you got time to read some of this. I make my code a lot longer, but if you like put this in, like I was thinking of this a little bit as I was writing the code. I was thinking about the timing of it, but if you put this code in while you're actually writing it, sometimes you can get distracted. It's sometimes good just to make your program work and then go back and make it look nice, right? So print puzzle board, and I'll wait 2 seconds. And I'll say, and you land on, and then it gives you the money amount, and then I'll wait again, time.sleep, and then I'll print those two at the same time. Put one here, put one here, put one here. I'll put one here, one here. I didn't put it before the break, just so that way breaks out of it. I have one here. All right, so this should help out like the spacing a little bit. Wheel of Fortune. Rules of the game. We're given a random blank puzzle to start. The puzzle will be a 5-letter word. The wheel will automatically spin for you, and the spinner will land on a random prize amount. You must guess a lowercase letter, no numbers or symbols. If you guess the correct letter in the puzzle, it will show up on the board. After 5 incorrect letters, you lose the game. Lists of your correct and incorrect letters will be provided. Puzzle board, and then it gives me a blank puzzle board. You spin the wheel and land on 450. Correct guesses. So letter guess, I'll say A. Buzzer sounds incorrect. And then it gives me my puzzle board. And let's say I say E. Ding, correct letter guess. So I like this now a little bit better because I can make my guesses that way. Maybe also I say something like the category. So I'll say print the category is sport. And I'll put this maybe inside single quotes. Right, and then I'll close this off. So at least gives a category, so someone who's playing the game like kind of understands what's going on. That's looking pretty good. Okay, I hope I didn't mess up somewhere along the way. At least it's a good start. Okay, so declare your function. If you wanted some things I could add, if I'm looking at the project, right? First is make sure I did everything I should have done. All right, explain the rules of the game. Did that. Keep track and display the user's prize money. Did that. Select a random secret word from a list Yes. Simulate a wheel spin and select a random money value. Did that. With each guess, update the board of where the correctly guessed letters fall on the board. Add correct letter guesses to keep track of display to the user before every turn. Add incorrect letter guesses. Okay. Did that. Use the .append. If the user reaches a certain number of incorrect guesses, I did -5. Display the user. Tell the user that they have lost. If the user guesses all the letters in a word, inform the user that they won the game and display their total prize money. If the user does not guess a letter, a symbol, or a number, prompt the user to guess again. Did that. And display your knowledge of lists in at least one for loop. Okay, did that. Nice. All right, so optional add-ons. I could use Tkinter. I could add an option to play the game again. Do you want to play again? And then select another random word. That's really just like even just adding another while true loop, right? Multiple categories and list secret words. If you want like to select a random category, you can do that. Multiple contestants. If you want to add more than just you guessing. And multiple puzzles. So that's just like rather than doing multiple categories, you can do multiple puzzles. Be creative. You are encouraged to add onto this project like always. When you're done, take screenshots of your code in your code editor and then also the output. I want to see all of your code. I want to see all of your output, right? Answer the following questions. And it says, walk through with me and explain your use of at least one for loop. All right, no problem. So my for loop here, I said for I in range because it was a 5-letter word. And if the index of the variable was the same as the letter guess, so if like the secret word was the same as the letter guess, then take the puzzle board, slice up the puzzle board, and put any blanks that were before or any guess letters previously, and wherever the letter guess was, go ahead and plop that in there and put the rest of the puzzle board. All right, that's my for loop. Why are lists useful? There's so many awesome things you can do with lists. It's better than creating a bunch of variables. Can you imagine if I did prize 1, prize 2, prize 3, prize 4, prize 5? That'd be kind of annoying, right? So in order to select a random one too, that's always nice. Explain at least 2 ways you use lists in this project. Well, I can show you all of my lists, right? I was able to use lists in order to write all my possible guesses, all my 5-letter words, all my money values, my correct letter guesses that start off as blank lists and then appended them, and the same with the incorrect letter guesses. Those are my lists. If you were to use Tkinter to create a GUI for this project, what would your game look like? I don't know if I would actually like have my wheels spinning. I think that would probably be one of the last things I would do, but I'd add some color. It is snowing really hard outside. I would add some color. I would include the scores, maybe have the board up there as different labels. That'd be kind of cool, right? Or even different pictures. Draw a picture of the GUI design. Take a picture of it and attach it, okay? Draw it on a piece of paper, take a picture of it, and attach it to the document. FAQs, do I need to watch the Tkinter videos this week? Yes, you do. You need to. Do I need to use Tkinter in my project? Not in this week, right? I recommend, like, let's say you get to where I'm at right now and you're like, I want to try doing this with Tkinter. Save your project beforehand and create a separate file. Create a separate file and try it in Tkinter, okay? I don't want to hear, oh, well, I had it working and then I messed something up. Happens, okay? It happens. So if you have it working, save it and like save as your new code, right? And save it as something different. All right, it happens all the time. So that's this entire project. All right. Some of the things like we're getting some advanced concepts, right? Looping through things and slicing up strings. So make sure if you have questions, please let me know. I want to be able to help. I can talk more about it in class as well, but Hope you guys learned something from this, and good luck on your project.